Turn to page 120 in the little blue book that I'm certain...
Further.
I'm sorry?
Don't.
You said my skills extend farther than the basketball court. Farther relates to distance. Further is a definition of degree. You should have said further.
Are you challenging me, Mr. Wallace?
Not any more than you challenge Coleridge.
Well, perhaps the challenge should have been directed elsewhere. It is a melancholy truth that even
Great men have poor relations. Dickens.
You will hear the beat of a horse.
Kipling.
All great truths begin.
Shaw.
Man is the only animal
That blushes. Or needs to. It's Mark Twain. Come on, Professor
Get
Crawford.
out. Get out.
Yeah, I'll get out.
I'm feeling this. I'm your professor, I will test you in the worst way. Don't bring a scantron, pop quizzes all day. Cause of our chemistry, we do biology. What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. The clip is from the movie Finding Forrester. It was like starring Sean Connery. But I want to talk about education. And, you know, one of the issues with education, not just on the side of, you know, the teacher shortage and letting kids get away with murder, you know, in classrooms and having the teachers like walking around with their hands tied and hands behind their back. You know, that's one thing. But another thing that's been in existence for just as long, and you can, and even if you want to look at, you can see things on social media that shows that. You can even look at old clips of documentaries. You can look at older movies, older than that, because Finding Forrester is like 2000. Is a constant of a teacher who really isn't necessarily trying to teach a student, but try to run them into the ground, and students, quote unquote, fight back in a sense of studying and knowing their information, and the kids being too smart drives to teach up a wall. You know, you learned out of spite, you gotta go. You learned because I was a jerk to these other kids and you didn't like that, so you wanted to stump me. You know, you learned, you know, or you're smarter than I thought you was because I stereotyped you as an idiot, and now you're smarter than I thought, and you might be smarter than me and I can't take it. It's like, but I thought you wanted to teach these kids to be intelligent and smart, but that's not necessarily true. You know, there have been plenty of students who got into it over actually schoolwork with a teacher. You know, because some teachers don't want certain people to be smart or certain students to be smart. They've been teachers who, you know, just like they've been teachers who gave a person with a C a B, or a person with a B a A, or a person with a D a C. They've been in reverse. Teachers who gave somebody with an A B a C, gave a person with a C a D, because, you know, they just got it out against them. And, you know, that's sometimes the first authority that people say, back down, don't do this, because they're in control of your quote-unquote education. And you've seen it time and time and time again. If you know, whether you were a student yourself and you watched a teacher do it to another student, or you were the student, you know, either way you've seen this happen too much. And sometimes teachers have egos. And the issue sometimes is this. Sometimes it's misplaced anger where they can't take it out on who they want to take it out on, so they take it out on you. You know, or someone else rather. You know, there used to be a thing where if you were an athlete and the team was winning and the coaches would pressure the teachers and the principal to make sure you can pass these classes even though you didn't earn it, you know, and the teachers felt some type of way about that, which they should. But then there were kids who were athletes who passed their classes and the teachers gave them a hard time just because, you know, since I passed this one, I'm gonna stick it to you though. You're doing good, but I'm gonna stick it to you though. You're not going to do as good as you should do. Somebody's got to lose something in this equation, right? You know, you have that, or you have students that have goals, and you have teachers that aren't necessarily challenging them to meet their goals, to make them smarter to achieve their goals. They're challenging them to undermine their goals, and when a kid, you know, answers the challenge and quote unquote fights back, at least mentally, you know, the teacher's like, oh, insubordination, da 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 da, you gotta go, you know, let me now root you up. So part of the cowardliness of society comes from school. You know, it comes from school because school, you know, it's supposed to be about academia. It's supposed to be about sharpening your mind. But in some ways, it's about who's, you know, your mind is supposed to be sharp. Yours, I'm going to make dull, you know. And if you choose not to have a dull mind, then I'm going to give you a whole lot of problems. You know, there used to be the days when kids like, you know, I know the answer, I raised my hand. It used to be the kid that knew all the answers, then they quote unquote was nerdy. They raised their hand, yeah, got enough of you. You done. We're not talking no more. Or then there'll be the kid who, you know, is dumb, and they call on that kid to either embarrass them or to tell them to tighten up. Like, even though you're dumb, you're going to have to know some of this stuff. You know, and then there's a kid that doesn't raise their hand at all for the most part, but when they called on, they're prepared. You know, sometimes some kids look like they're not paying attention, like they're aloof, and teacher's like, what about you? And you go, oh, that's da-da-da-da. You didn't, how did you know that? I knew, I studied, you know, I don't look like I pay attention, I get it. You know, but I pay attention. I check out sometimes because it's not really, you know, entertaining, which school isn't supposed to be entertaining for one, but that's a whole nother different story. But sometimes that, you know, certain kids with certain IQs, and sometimes kids make a lot of difficult stuff look easy, and teachers don't like it because, you know, this should be harder for you. It was hard for me when I was a kid. How was it hard for you? And it's that, you know. And sometimes you stand up for other kids who are getting done wrong, and you subsequently put yourself on the chopping block, you know. And if you watch the scene well enough, you notice that when initially, you know, when he started answering the questions like that, at first it was like, okay, and then, okay, you know that one. Then he asked another one, okay, you know that one. And then the teacher had a slight smirk like, oh, this kid know what he doing. And then he went again. And again, the teacher was like, you mother, you know. So sometimes you know, challenging authority will cost you, because some teachers' egos is just completely out of line. You know, there are teachers who don't like their job. You know, and some of them have very good reason, and some of them just are teachers, and they have their little issues, and they're trying to unlevel the playing field. So they're trying to, you know, make sure certain people get ahead and make sure certain people get behind or stay behind. So, you know, and kids pick up on that. But tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll try and catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
You ever been at the top of the universe? I'm gonna tell you that.